Hi everyone! Renate here from Crafty Renate. Welcome back to my channel. If you've been around for a while, you already know I love tie-dyeing. There's just one thing I've always wanted to tie-dye and never have until now, which is a bed sheet. So today is the day and I decided to not only do a bed sheet but also matching pillowcases. I also decided to film everything as a tutorial because yeah, I think some of you might like to see that. I bought a 100% cotton sheet and 2 matching pillowcases in an ivory color. And first I'm gonna wash everything. While my sheet and pillowcases are being washed, I get all of my supplies ready, which is a pitcher for my water, some spoons, a funnel, squeeze bottles that can be closed, very important, some Dylon hand wash dyes, rubber bands, latex gloves, and plastic bags. I also placed some painter's tape, not painter's tape. I would need a lot of painter's tape for that. I placed some painter's plastic on the ground so that I don't also dye my driveway. It would be cool looking though, but you know, let's maybe not do that. First, I'm gonna put on my gloves because again, I don't wanna stain my hands for months. And I also filled my pitcher with some warm water. I put 1 tablespoon of the dye into a bottle as that's about the amount I need for my 100 milliliter bottles. Check the instructions on your dyes and how much liquid your bottles hold to know how much dye you'll need to put in. From now on, I'm also just gonna eyeball how much dye to put in my bottles as I don't wanna have to clean out my funnel every time. I'm just gonna prepare 2 bottles of each color for now and I'll see how far I get with those because it's kind of hard to guesstimate how much fabric dye I will need for this sheet and these pillowcases. But I think 2 or 3 bottles per color probably. All of my bottles now have dye in them, so I'm gonna prepare them by adding warm water using the funnel. After closing the bottles, I give them a good shaky shake to dissolve the dye powder in the water. My sheet and pillowcases are now washed and they're still damp, which is important because it needs to be damp when you dye them. So I'm gonna start with the pillowcases and I would like to have 1 spiral on each pillowcase. So I place them with the right side up and pinch where I want the center of my spiral to be. Now I twist the fabric around my pinching fingers and guide the rest of the fabric in the same direction. I'm happy with that, so now I place 3 rubber bands around it and I make sure that they all come together at one point in the center. Oops, I seem to have already gotten a few drops of my dye on my next pillowcase, but that's okay because we won't see that anymore once I'm done anyway. I'm repeating the same steps as I did for the first pillowcase. Now I'm adding my dyes where I want them. By the way, I have a tie-dye playlist with other tie-dye tutorials I did in the past, so if you're interested, I will link it in the top right corner of this video and at the end of this video. And of course, I have to do the same thing on the other side. This pillowcase now goes into closed plastic bag for at least overnight, but I think I'm gonna keep it in for 24 hours. I'm gonna try to not open my plastic bags for 24 hours. Obviously, I'm just repeating the same steps as I did for the first pillowcase. Now it's time for the big one, the bedsheet. So to make this a little bit easier to work with, and because I think it'll give a cool effect, I'm just gonna fold my bedsheet twice so that I get 4 layers, and therefore I will also get 4 spirals instead of 1. It's just gonna make things a lot easier because otherwise, yeah, it's a big sheet. I have a big bed, so yeah. So now I'll create that same spiral shape with the same dies. Of course, the sheet goes in a bag too, and now I'm gonna try and leave everything in bags for 24 hours. It is the next day and I can finally take my tie-dye bedding out of the bags. I am so excited. I filled up a container with some water and I'm just gonna put each piece in and press the excess dye out of the fabric, as much as I can. And then it's time to take the rubber bands off. I think it's gonna look good. We're already getting a sneak peek of what everything looks like. To make sure the dye will look great for many years, I also like to soak my finished pieces in water with some vinegar for about an hour, and then I give everything a wash. Now I finally really get to see what everything looks like, because I did see the pillowcases sort of, but I didn't see the sheet yet, only a little part. So, oh my gosh. Yes, that's exactly what I had in mind. And here's the finished product on my bed. I just love how fun and colorful it looks. And knowing that I dyed it myself just makes it even better, than if it were store-bought. So yes, I really hope you enjoyed this video and you will consider subscribing. Feel free to browse around my channel and check out some of my other videos. I have a lot of them and I make them for you to enjoy, so enjoy! Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with my next video. Bye!